mana. Here's Hero's Downfall, his dissolves, all of that stuff. That's already pretty problematic, but Barich gets to go first. Ugh, that seems really, really hard, and he's going first. Look, the judge got to stop him. He's going too fast. Aaron's just like, I just want to play my Soldier of the Pantheon and start beating you down with it. You don't even have the green light yet, Aaron. Though I think he has the Soldier of the Pantheon in his hand. He can't wait to attack. I love it.
Well, Aaron's deck, as we know, with 1-drops, Blood-Soaked Champion and Soldier of the Pantheon, so has a full 8 1-drops.
Yeah, he's going to start the beatdowns right away. I mean, he's not fetching on turn 1 unless he has something to do with it. You can see his hand. There's the Soldier. He's got another Windswept Teeth, Heir of the Wilds as well. So he's got an aggressive start. And again, for Shaheen, like, you know, this turn he's got to have like a Thoughtseize or a Despise or something, I think, right? Well, there's a swamp. All right.
Yeah, I mean, something he can play would be great because these Thoughtseize and Despises are pretty much all he gets to do before turn 3. And some of those turn 3 plays are things like Dissolve, which don't really work very well.
Shaheen's going to take 2 and go down to 18. Take a look at Blood-Soaked Champion, Siege Rhino, Heir of the Wild, Soldier of the Pantheon, Windswept Heath. I think this is kind of hard. I mean, you can't take Blood-Soaked Champion, obviously, but maybe Heir of the Wild's here?
Heir of the Wilds or Soldier of the Pantheon, it really depends on what kind of removal Shaheen has in the rest of his hand. Whether he has multicolored spells, if he has a Bioblade, he obviously wants to leave the second Soldier. It does show a way that Shaheen can win this. Aaron's hand, the mana in Aaron's hand is pretty bad right now. If he doesn't find black mana, he's just got a pair of Soldier of the Pantheons.
Drew a copy of Siege Rhino. That could actually just been horrible for Shaheen. If he draws a black mana like a Llanowar Waste, he plays 2 more 1-drops that have 2 power and is just going crazy.
If he'd hit a swamp there, that could have been lights out for Shaheen. You're absolutely right.
Temple of Lightning is the card here. Take a look at the top card. We'll see where it's going to go here in just a moment. You see Shaheen does have an expensive card like Dig Through Time in his hand. Elspeth, too. If he can get to that point in the game, he's probably going to win, but we don't know if he's ever going to get there. Time to untap and draw. Ugh.
It's a 3rd Siege Rhino for Aaron.
Normally that's not so bad. You're probably normally pretty happy if you draw 3 Siege Rhinos. Not right now, though.
On the other side, this still isn't... Aaron still has play here.
There's a Hero's Downfall.
See, 1-drops are just good against Shaheen's deck. He's going to be spending cards like Hero's Downfall just to get rid of a 1-drop.
He didn't draw a land, but he drew a spell that he could cast, so he's going to get a Forest, play a Fleece mainline, pass the turn back. You see the life totals here, 18 to 10. Shaheen's will draw a card, Temple of Silence. Aaron's hand, the interesting thing about this game, too, is that Aaron's hand has 3 Siege Rhinos and a Blood-Soaked Champion, so even if Shaheen starts to stabilize, if Aaron runs off a couple of lands, he can put him to the test with just going, Rhino, does this resolve? Rhino, does this resolve? And try to kill him that way. Because one thing that you noted about Shaheen's deck is he doesn't really have a great way to gain life.
And Aaron really getting stopped up on lands here, but you're right, he has Shaheen at 5 and...
Timely.
Yeah.
Timely on hostilities. Fleece mainline the draw. You're going to play that. There's an island. This is Elspeth.
And one thing we have seen about Aaron's deck is it has an inability to deal with Elspeths. We saw this when he played against Brad. His deck really wants to be winning before turn 6, so once an opponent makes Elspeth, the only form of evasion his deck actually has is Siege Rhino, which Aaron has enough of.
Yeah, he's got 3.
Yeah, he still does have an out here that if he can just hit a couple lands, he can maybe burn out Shaheen with Siege Rhinos.
Shaheen going to sacrifice Blue to Delta. He's going down to 4.
Yeah, he was at 5, so when he was at 10, there was obviously the game going pretty quickly here. There was an attack from a Soldier of the Pantheon and Fleece main line that put him down to 5, and now this fetch line puts him at 4. He doesn't actually have any dissolves yet, so like I said, the Siege Rhinos could get there. It would take a lot on Aaron's side. Elspeth does have a tendency to end a game after a few activations.
I have to imagine that's what Shaheen is digging for, right? You know, he's going to look at 7 cards here, and I think if he finds any copies of Dissolve, he's just going to take that plus whatever it is. You see his hand, or excuse me, you see the cards he's looking at with Dig Through Time, and I don't think any of those are a Dissolve. There's an utter end hanging out of there.
One Dissolve should give him the time to make token. What he needs is time to go plus Elspeth to 6, plus Elspeth to 7, make an emblem attack for lethal. Yep. And he needs to make sure he doesn't get Siege Rhino'd in the meantime.
Ashiok, turn over a Boon Satyr, and an Anafenza.
Ashiok's a great play here from Shaheen because another out to getting Siege Rhino'd from Aaron would be if he finds a Siege Rhino off Ashiok. Even just gaining 3 life from Shaheen should make him safe enough to win with Elspeth.
So one of the fun things I like to do, and you're a math guy, so it's like the cards he turns over kind of random, but it's like, oh, those are 3 non-lands, and oh look, somebody drew land.
There we go.
Came in the wrong order there, Mr. Ashiok.
Well, next turn's really going to be the test because Aaron still needs a black source.
Shaheen just showed the report that he's not going to play. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I don't think so,
definitely
buddy.
Not playing that one.
Here's a treasure cruise. See if Shaheen's able to find dissolve off of that. Nope. Doesn't look like it. That is such a heads-up play by Shaheen. Would be so easy for him to just play that. And he says, no, I'm not giving you black mana. I know what's in your hand.
Yeah, now it looks like Shaheen should still be fine, even if Aaron draws the swamp. He'll go to... Well, actually, let's see I want to see how Shaheen plays this for a second here.
Well, he's going to have 9 soldiers now. And I think he just ticks down Ashiok to put something in play.
Yep.
No, he's going to tick it up. I'm really surprised by that, actually.
Yeah, well, 9 soldiers could represent 27 damage.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, no, you're right. He doesn't even need to do that.
Yeah, if it was 21,
yeah,
then he would have to keep them all alive. But he can chump. And Windswept Heath.
That's not a black mana.
Not a black mana for Aaron.
That's going to do it. I did not expect this to happen at all. Shaheen Soorani is going to win at game number 1 here over Aaron Barich. Barich came out of the gates very quickly, but Shaheen was able to stabilize, and we saw this when he played against Brad. Elspeth is a nightmare for Barich's deck.
Well, the Aaron's answer to Elspeth is to win before the Elspeth hits the table. Once it's down, absolutely, it's a really difficult card for Aaron to beat.
It's trivia time. He has the rules. I have the 6-month question.
All right, so same game as round 1. Cedric's going to ask the question this time. We're going to ask you a question, and if you believe you know the answer, hop onto Twitter and tweet the answer at us. Make sure you have the hashtag SCG Premium that you see on the bottom of the screen on your tweet. And at the end of this match and our other top 4 match, 1 correct answer will be randomly selected to receive 6 months. So with that, Cedric, what is our question?
I'm going to take a look at Aaron Barich's deck. He's this very low to the ground, Abzan aggro deck, unlike anything we've seen here in Standard so far, especially when we're watching the Open Series. He's got some pump spells in his deck. 3 of them are Gather Courage, and he has a 1-of pump spell that's becoming, it's making a name for itself here with the help of Tom Ross and now Aaron, as we saw in a match earlier against Brad Nelson. So if you can name that 1-of pump spell that's in his deck, hashtag the answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. As we do head back to the match, take a look at the sideboards here. Again, unexpected to see Shaheen win game number 1. I'm actually going to go to his sideboard first because you can see that he actually gets some nice cards here. I think the big one is 4 copies of Nyx Fleece Ram. Those got to be good in this matchup, right?
So 4 Nyx Fleece Ram should be excellent in this matchup. When you go to the sideboard, Shaheen should be really happy that he took game 1. Things are going to get a lot better post-board for him. He needs to get anything he can have that costs really less than 3. So Nyx Fleece Ram, great. 3rd Bioblade, great. I'm not sure if he's going to go with a card like Negate. That Aaron doesn't have enough spells for that. The question will be Drown in Sorrow. There are a fair number of 2-1s in Aaron's deck, so Drown in Sorrow is not terrible. It hits Heir of the Wilds, Bloodsoaked Champion, Soldier of the Pantheon. That's probably enough to bring it in.
Death Dealer too.
Death Dealer as well, yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of copies of that card, only 2 of them. Of course, doesn't take care of Fleecemane Lion. If the game starts working into Anafenza and Siege Rhino territory. Question for you, if you're in this matchup, are you boarding in the Disdainful Stroke?
I wouldn't want to see the Disdainful Stroke if I'm Shaheen.
Okay.
Siege Rhino's a really good card, and I would love to counter it. But there's just not enough targets for it. You can target Siege Rhino, you can target Sorin, you can target Become Immense, but that's about it. That's only 6 targets right now. I don't think you can board it in, even though I really like the idea of a spell that costs 2.
Other side of things for Barich, you see the 2 Banishing Lights, the 4 Nyx Fleece Rams, a Bioblight, a Gather Courage, Murderous Cut, 2 Sorentalm Visitors, and 4 copies of Thoughtseize. Probably just the discard spells, I would think. Sorin seems okay, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, well, what Shaheen has to do is he has to answer Aaron's cards on time, on curve. So Thoughtseize is going to do a great job of stopping Shaheen from doing that. You take the key piece of his game plan, and then that'll translate into a lot of damage on your side. I agree, Aaron will use the discard spells. Nothing else is particularly appealing here. Maybe Sorin because it's harder for Shaheen to answer, but I really don't know how many 4-mana spells I want to board in at all if I'm Aaron here. I would rather just win before Shaheen's game gets going.
I think we're just probably going to see Aaron board out his pump spells, the 3 Gather Courage and the Become Immense, just for 4 copies of Thoughtseize. It seems to be a pretty clean swap. Gather Courage does have some utility in the fact that it can kind of counter a Drown in Sorrow, but I think, he has enough cards in his deck, especially when he's on the play, that if he goes like, turn 1, whatever one drop, turn 2 Fleece main line, turn 3 Anafenza. Who cares about Drowning Sorrow then?
He may actually keep in some of those and get rid of some of his Obzon charms in the matchup. If he expects Shaheen to bring in Neek's Fleece Ram, and he does get to know that Shaheen has that, he may want something cheaper that can push through a Ram earlier. There isn't a one mode on Obzon Charm that's particularly good in this matchup. You know, there aren't many creatures to exile. Drawing 2 is fine, but I'm not convinced that Aaron has time to do that. 1/1 counters is also fine, but 3 mana, once again, it's the difference between 3 mana and 1 mana.
Yeah, which for his deck is a lot.
3 mana is his whole turn in this deck.
I really feel like, man, game 1 is just such an upset for Shaheen to win because, yeah, if he loses this game 3 on the play, it's just like such a big deal. He can just start getting his 2 mana and 3 mana spells online. 3 mana spells on the draw versus on the play are much different, as we do have a quick update for you guys on Harlan Fear with his Jeskai token kind of combo Ascendancy. Does a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Up a game here over Kevin Jones, who is playing Jeskai aggro. Mr. Fear getting some work done here this morning.
Both Aaron Barich and Kevin Jones are undefeated players, down a game here.
Yeah. They got to shake hands around number 9. Said, hey, let's play in the top 8 tomorrow. And they've made it to the top 4. We'll see if they both are able to kind of rally here and make it to the finals.
Yeah, and I think you were right. That Aaron really would have liked to have had game 1, and he's a strong favorite in it. By most accounts, the hand he kept was a bust-up. He had 2 lands and 2 Soldier of the Pantheons, and it's all he played for a while. And even then, he almost won the game. He got Shaheen down to 4.
If he draws a Swamp for the Bloodstone Champion that game, or the Black Source of Mana, what have you, he probably just wins, like right there.
If there's a Swamp on turn 2, it's very hard to not pick Aaron in that game.
Hey, we have some mana fixing this game in Sandstep Citadel, so he'll lead off with that. Shaheen will fix his mana a little bit too with Temple of Deceit. Take a look at the top card. Figure out where it's gonna go. Don't have a great look at things. You see he has a Temple of Silence in his hand, so he does have white mana. He'll put the top card to the bottom, pass the turn back over to Barich. Barich will draw Rakshasa Death Dealer and deploy Fleece main line before passing the turn back. Shaheen draws a copy of Temple of Enlightenment. Perhaps it's time to scry again? Though he does have a polluted Delta. He'll choose to scry, though. These are just the setup turns for his control deck.
Yeah, well, these are the important turns for Aaron. He needs to get a good board presence. Starting on turn 3, Shaheen will start playing a kill spell a turn. You see Shaheen has once again brought in Prognostic Sphinx, actually, which I'm starting to wonder what matchup he doesn't bring it in. We've seen him play it now against aggro and against mid-range and against control. And I don't dislike Prognostic Sphinx. I actually really like the card in his deck. But it does seem like it comes out of the board in most every matchup.
It wouldn't surprise me, if he's just boarding in a lot because people are boarding out their creature removal, or, people are just sideboarding in such a way where Sphinx gets better when they remove cards and add cards.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some decks where you have cards in your sideboard that you board in literally every matchup, which you think, well, why isn't it in the main? It's like, well, it's because you're countering their sideboard plan with it.
Rakshasa Death Dealer and no third land here for Barich. You can see Barich's hand. He's got a Rhino. He's got a Boon Satyr, a Sorin. Bunch of stuff going on. Death Dealer is going to untap here. Barich is going to draw. Don't know if he drew a land, but he's coming into the red zone right now. Shrugs his shoulders and says, hey, you got anything? The answer is yes, a Hero's Downfall. You said on turn 3, that's when the kill spells start coming.
And this has been a rough set of games for Aaron. It looks like, once again, he's sticking on lands. Second game in a row where he's on 2 and is stuck with a glut of Siege Rhinos.
You can see Aaron's hand. You mentioned the Rhinos. He's got a Boon Satyr over there. I do wonder if he's going to play this other copy of Rakshasa Death Dealer. He knows that Shaheen has access to Drought and Sorrow in his deck. You have to assume that he brought it in. You don't know how many copies, because Aaron can present draws where Drought and Sorrow doesn't do anything. But it looks like he's going to play it, and Shaheen is going to have a nice turn coming.
This Drought and Sorrow is very possibly going to get Shaheen the game here.
Worst feeling in the world is when you play the other Death Dealer, your opponent picks up the hand and moves a card forward. It's like, oh no.
Oh, I wonder what. Yeah, and I like how Aaron played it. He's supposed to play it that way. I don't think he can beat the Drown in Sorrow anyway, even if Shaheen just drowns. If he leaves up 2 mana, then what if Shaheen's card is Hero's Downfall? It's just as bad.
Barich is going to play a land just past the turn back, so it doesn't even look like he has a copy of Anafenza, though it looks like he's on the Boon Satyr plan here. Shaheen going to play a Sorin, make a Vampire, play a Temple. And it's funny because I imagine for Shaheen, he's played so many games with Esper, be it in this format or previous formats, where it's like, man, a low to the ground aggro deck, and you're all Temple deck, you got a bad matchup. And it's probably true that he does have a bad matchup, but at the very least, he knows how to navigate through it. He knows what he's looking for. He knows what he's trying to accomplish. His Heroes of Thoughtseize, and things are working out well for him. You see a great hand here.
Yeah, 2 heroes downfalls, a Prognostic Sphinx, and a Dig Through Time. Aaron's going to have to win a game in the... This is the type of game his deck's not entirely comfortable with here. You know, he's having to win through the late game against a mid-range deck.
It is not where he wants to be. You know, what do you want to do with Thoughtseize here? I don't know. I guess dig and try to beat these 2 downfalls and Sphinx and the Sorin that's in play. It's not an enviable situation.
The Sorin, I think, is the really tough part for him to beat.
Yeah,
the other ones are possible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can play Siege Rhinos through downfalls. That works. But what do you do with this Sorin?
Well, we're going to find out right now, I think, just how good Siege Rhino is. There's the 4th land, the necessary mana to cast it. And if Siege Rhino is as great as it thinks it is, we're going to see if we can get Aaron back in this game. Though Shaheen does have a couple of copies of Heroes Downfall. A little drain, a little gain. Shaheen will draw another temple.
And yeah, you're right. Here's the issue is that Shaheen's going to downfall these. He's going to get to Scry 3, and he's going to get to gain life. So Aaron can't actually burn Shaheen out with these Siege Rhinos.
Here's the attack. Going to Scry 3 here. Looks like Shaheen may be interested in making a Vampire with Sorin this turn, as he has not activated it just yet. Started at 4, went down to 2 to make the token. Last turn, Shaheen played Sphinx, and then plus the Sorin, so...
Yeah, and now that Shaheen has 6 mana, this turn he can Heroes Downfall. Next turn he can Heroes Downfall with a Dissolve up. He did find a Dissolve, and the fact that he gets to do all this with Prognostic Sphinx, just hitting every turn, should be good enough.
He's living the dream. There's the caves. These lands are showing up now when Aaron doesn't need them.
You can see it on Aaron's demeanor that he knows how uphill this fight is.
Well, when you Thoughtseize your opponent and see those cards, it's like, ugh. I was hoping to see 3 lands and then take like 1 card or something. It's just too hard to overcome.
Exactly.
Sheen's going to draw a card. Didn't get a great look. I think it may have been a dig. He's going to plus the Sorin. See Drowning Sorrow over there too.
See just how Shaheen wants to play this. He can use his creatures to take down the Sorin. Gets another Scry. You see that Dissolve still on top of his deck. He opted to draw something else.
Top card, bottom.
And like a lot of these mid-range decks, I really like... Shaheen's deck does a great job of snowballing here. Once he gets ahead, he rarely seems to let go of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to the format. A lot of people are playing one efficient thread. When people are playing cards like Siege Rhinos, then your hand of Heroes Downfall and Dissolve just does a great job of answering Siege Rhinos. Once you're ahead, you can stay ahead. It'd be interesting when he plays against a deck like, if he ends up playing Harlan Fear, that's a deck that is that's a deck that doesn't go in on 1 card like Siege Rhino, and suddenly your Dissolves and Downfalls are a lot less valuable against it. So whether or not he'll be able to hold on to that lead against that style strategy, I think will be more interesting.
Barich, just a couple cards left in his hand, a Siege Rhino and another copy of Sorin, but he has been exhausted here. It's funny because, again, you don't expect this kind of deck in this world of Concept Arcures. Where's the Sultai deck? Where is the Jeskai deck? Well, how is he playing Esper? What are his payoff cards? Well, I don't need payoff cards. I just got good cards. My payoff cards dig through time. How about that? How about good mana and Prognostic Sphinx? Sorin's going to make a Vampire, pass the turn back. It's quite odd to see in a world with no Detention Sphere, no Azorius Charm, no Sphinx's Revelation. You know what? Blue-white, base blue-white strategies, blue-black, Esper, these decks can still compete. Here comes the Sphinx. Put 2 on the bottom, keep 1 on top. 3 damage going to come across here. Slowly but surely whittling him down.
Yeah, well, he's got all this 1-for-1 removal again. You know, you have another Drown in Sorrow here, but Downfall, similar cards.
It's just, I mean, it's not impossible for Aaron to win this game, but it certainly feels like it.
Well, every time Aaron draws a land, it feels like he didn't even get a card.
Yeah.
And thanks to Prognostic Sphinx, Shaheen just isn't going to be drawing lands.
Shaheen's last couple of cards. You see Hero's Downfall and Dissolve. Top card to the bottom. Kevin Jones just tied things up here against Harlan Fears. So the Jeskai people are battling it out, and they're going to play a third game. I know that's not drawing a creature or a land. Gather Courage might, I don't know, is that worse than those things?
It's a little worse than them right now, especially Gather Courage does not line up well against Hero's Downfalls.
I know it's not quite a creature or a land, but it might be worse than those things. I don't know if it's worse than a land, but it sure feels like it. Attack.
You see Shaheen just continue to draw more cards like Hero's Downfalls to deal with threats that Aaron could draw.
Yep. Shaheen gonna make a vampire, pass the turn back. Barich will draw. Now that time it was a land, along with Gather Courage. Yeah, this is the bad half. He's gonna extend the hand. Shaheen Soorani's gonna win this match. 2-0, Esper Control, moving on to the finals. If you know Shaheen, this isn't a surprise. If you sat down across from him